Welcome back to Rainbow Nation Radio, where we explore South Africa through American eyes. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jessica.
In our last episode, we brought you the story of Nobuntu Mkhize, whose shocking behavior on a domestic flight sparked outrage across South Africa. Today, we're continuing our coverage as new developments emerge and reactions pour in from political parties and institutions. Racism in South Africa. But what if the most shocking incident didn't involve black and white, but rather exposed deep-seated prejudices within communities of color? This story has rocked the Rainbow Nation to its core.
Oh, this sounds intense. What exactly happened?
It all started on a domestic flight in South Africa on Boxing Day. Nobuntu Mkhize, a passenger and an employee of the South African Broadcasting Corporation, SABC, was caught on video making shocking racist and classist remarks to a flight attendant. But here's the kicker. Both women were people of color.
Wow, that's unexpected. Can you give us more details about what was said?
Sure thing. Mkhize specifically targeted the flight attendant's identity as a colored person from Mitchell's Plain, a predominantly working-class area near Cape Town. She was heard saying things like, "You're a colored from Mitchell's Plain. All these gold rings but no degree." She even made assumptions about the flight attendant's education level, economic status, and whether she had a driver's license. For our listeners unfamiliar with South African terminology, the term colored refers to people of mixed racial heritage and is an officially recognized racial classification. It doesn't carry the same negative connotations as in some other countries. But what makes this incident even more ironic is that Mkhize comes from a family with a strong anti-apartheid background. In the video, she referenced her father, who reportedly fought against racial discrimination during apartheid.
That adds a whole new layer, doesn't it? How can someone from that background harbor such prejudices?
Exactly. It raises serious questions about how deeply ingrained racial and class prejudices are in South African society, even among those you might expect to be more enlightened. And it's not just about individual prejudices. This incident has sparked a broader conversation about institutional racism and classism in South Africa.
So how have different groups responded to this incident?
The response has been widespread. The Democratic Alliance, DA, has taken a strong stance, filing criminal charges against Mkhize for crimen injuria, which relates to the unlawful violation of someone's dignity. Tertius Simmers from the DA made an important point, saying, "If we want true reconciliation, we must accept and identify and respect the dignity of all South Africans, not just some South Africans."
That's quite a serious step. What about other political parties?
The Patriotic Alliance, PA, has lodged a complaint with the South African Human Rights Commission. Kenny Kunene, the PA's deputy president, had strong words about the incident, describing Mkhize's behavior as insulting, insensitive, and racist. He also criticized the SABC for its slow response, arguing that there's clear video evidence, so action should have been immediate. It's a tricky balance, though. Institutions like the SABC have to ensure proper procedures are followed, but people expect swift action when there's such clear evidence.
Absolutely. And this has sparked a broader debate about how to address racism in South Africa. Kunene has even called for racism to be criminalized, with hefty sentences for offenders. It's a controversial proposal that raises questions about free speech and how you define and prove racism legally. Do you think there's any chance of something like that being implemented?
It's hard to say. It would face significant legal and constitutional challenges. But the fact that it's even being proposed shows how desperate some people are for decisive action against racism. And this incident isn't just about black-white racism. It highlights prejudice within non-white racial groups, showing how complex racial dynamics are in South Africa.
Speaking of racism within institutions, we can't ignore the controversy surrounding Renaldo Gouws, a former Democratic Alliance member of parliament. Earlier this year, Gouws was expelled from the DA after videos surfaced in which he used racial slurs and made violent remarks targeting Black South Africans. These videos, although recorded years prior, resurfaced and prompted immediate suspension and investigation by the DA.
That's significant. It shows the challenges political parties face when addressing racism within their own ranks. The DA made it clear that they have a zero-tolerance stance on racism, but it also highlights the importance of being proactive rather than reactive.
Absolutely. The DA's federal executive found Gouws guilty of contravening several sections of their constitution, leading to his expulsion. It's a reminder that addressing racism requires constant vigilance, not just in public incidents like Mkhize's, but within institutions as well.
And it highlights a broader issue. Political parties have a responsibility to set the tone for inclusivity and equality. Whether it's dealing with someone like Mkhize or Gouws, the message has to be clear. Racism in any form is unacceptable.
Exactly. And this isn't just about overt racism either. Mkhize's comments about the flight attendants' perceived economic status are equally troubling. They reveal the intertwining of race and class in South Africa, where addressing one without addressing the other won't lead to true reconciliation.
Listening to the various responses, this incident has become a microcosm of broader debates in South Africa. Political parties staking out positions, calls for institutional reform, debates about free speech versus hate speech. It encapsulates so many challenges facing the country.
That's a great observation. It's like this one incident has brought long simmering tensions and debates to the forefront. And maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes it takes a shocking event to get people talking and confronting these issues. Speaking of which, let's not forget the flight attendant at the center of this. How must she be feeling, suddenly thrust into the spotlight and having to relive this traumatic experience?
That's an important point. She's a 24-year-old woman just trying to do her job. From what we've heard, she didn't ask to become the face of a national debate on racism. Thankfully, there has been a lot of support for her. Both the DA and the PA have emphasized taking action on her behalf to stand up for her dignity and rights.
That's good to hear. And while this incident has exposed some ugly truths, it's also shown positive aspects, like other passengers standing up for her and political parties rallying to her defense. It shows that many South Africans reject racism and discrimination.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that while there's a long way to go, progress has been made. 30 years ago, an incident like this might not have caused such widespread outrage and calls for action.
But the question is, where do we go from here? How do we ensure this leads to meaningful change rather than being another fleeting scandal?
Keeping the conversation going is key. This incident should be a springboard for broader discussions about race, class, and reconciliation. Whether it's Kunene's proposal to criminalize racism, reforms in institutions like the SABC, or educating people about cultural sensitivity, there's a lot that can be done. And it starts with individual reflection. This is a reminder for all of us to examine our own biases and think about the assumptions we make about people based on their race or socioeconomic status. Real change starts with challenging our own preconceptions.
So true. And while this incident has exposed some ugly truths, it's also an opportunity for growth. The widespread condemnation shows that many South Africans are committed to building a just and equitable society.
Certainly, Jess. Let's hope this sparks not just conversation, but real action toward inclusivity. To our listeners, let us know your thoughts. What steps do you think should be taken to address incidents like this? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to join the conversation. Your voice matters. Stay curious, stay kind, and we'll see you next time on Rainbow Nation Radio, where we explore South Africa through American eyes. Perhaps you found this discussion insightful. We recommend checking out another recent episode where we delve into the controversy surrounding Orania, a whites-only town in South Africa that raises significant questions about segregation and inclusivity in the 21st century. You can watch it by clicking here, stay informed, and continue exploring these important issues with us.